House Speaker Thom Tillis and his Republican team got the budget through. Speaker, how'd you reach the benchmarks you reached, $19 billion in spending?
Well, we started from the ground up. I think probably the thing, it's because it's more technical in nature. People do not realize the revolution and the process this year. It really did start from the committee members. We reduced a lot of the so-called big chairs that people would say 8 people would get in a room and decide what the budget would be based on what the corner office wanted. We did it very differently. We cut out a lot of those so-called big chairs and senior chairs. We got the committees together. We said, you got to achieve this run rate. Go figure out the best way to do it. Work with the agencies, make recommendations, and bring it up the chain. We did it in record time. We're passing a budget out of the House sooner than it has been passed out in decades. And in fact, the thing that's most remarkable to me is the lack of objections that we're getting from most of the people outside of the one area of education.
And were you expecting anything less? Education is always a hot button topic. You press that button this budget.
Yeah, well, I think, and they did the last budget. If you think about it, we had even with the reductions in the last budget, we had objections to it. So that's nothing new. What was new was not a significant pushback from a lot of the other agencies or stakeholders. We found that actually encouraging. And in education, we're looking at it. With it constituting such a large amount of the budget, we clearly have to cut from all categories. But I think we're optimistic. I'm particularly optimistic about what I'm hearing on the ground from the superintendents and from the other schools that are community colleges that think they can work on it. We're getting some pushback in universities, and we'll have to continue to work that in the Senate.
$1.2 billion in total education spending reductions. What made that the sweet spot? Is that all? Do you consider that all fat that could be, or cream that could be skimmed?
I think some of it's prioritization. I think when you look at it, one of the things this budget does that again has really been underreported is the increased emphasis in early childhood development. What we've done with Smart Start and More at Forward to make sure that not only is it a child care subsidy, but what kind of expectations can we set to let that groundwork be laid so that child, by the time they get out of 3rd grade, they enter into to grade K through 3 and really build those core reading and learning skills. There's been a significant emphasis placed on that, and I think that that's something that's been underreported. We've got to do a better job of getting out there. By the same token, we've tried to at least provide the allocation for the teaching population as it exists today. We had to make some tough choices theoretically around the teacher assistant ranks, but even that has been probably misreported. I'll give you one example. A school system where here in Wake County, where they've said that what they're going to do so that they can keep some teacher assistants versus all the rhetoric about thousands having to be laid off is to maybe shorten the length of time, maybe not have them there on non-teaching days and shorten the calendar, deal with the calendar. So there are other ways that they could actually work it with the flexibility we have in this budget to preserve a lot of those positions if they go to work at it.
You oppose extending a sales tax or creating a new quote, temporary sales tax. Why is that bad for North Carolina when the Democrats took to the floor and said people don't miss a penny?
Well, if I were one of the Democrats who stood on the floor when that budget was imposed 2 years ago and looked in the eyes of the citizen and said, it's a temporary tax. It's going to go away in 2 years. I want them to get on the television and say, we really didn't mean that. What we meant to say, it's temporary until we make it permanent or until we no longer have to make a tough decision. We decided to make a tough decision versus going back on the word that I believe everybody made when they imposed that temporary tax. And the rhetoric's interesting. They haven't said, they're making it look like we're cutting something that's permanent. Structurally, it goes away on June 30th. I want to see the ad from the minority that says, we're here to raise your taxes, because that's what would have to happen to make that tax occur again in July.
This budget carries promises you made on the campaign trail in 2010. The governor, they're opposed to it's opposite of what the governor wants. Are you daring her to veto this bill? Is this what you're going for?
You know, I hope the governor will take this bill seriously. I hope the governor will eliminate, to the extent that she can, some of the politics out of the decision. Recognize that there are significant economic advantages to this budget that could potentially increase revenue at the current tax rate that would allow us to reestablish some funding as we move forward. I hope that the governor will look at it in that way. Unlike the governor, The promise that I made and the promise that my party made last year to allow these taxes to go and to not impose a tax increase, I'm going to commit to. And the governor has made a decision not to do that. And I personally would encourage her to look at other ways to get our fiscal house in order without going back on a promise she made last year not to impose new taxes on citizens. Extending the sales tax is a new tax that would have to be written into law and implemented in July. And that's a promise I'm going to keep, to not do that, and I hope the governor will do the same.
All right, Speaker, we'll follow the debate as it goes through the Senate, probably back your way. Thanks for being on the show.
Yep.